Greetings, Stash Wyslouch here. Welcome to Quick Tips. Today I want to talk about setting up a roadmap for a musical goal. Step 1, set up a goal. Set up a timeline, let's say 4 months. Here's my goal: navigate the chord change from a flat 3 diminished chord to a 2 minor chord. We've talked a lot about that recently in Quick Tips. Now I'm going to use my 3-pronged structure of improv, structure, and composition to sort of map out a bunch of different strategies, brainstorm some ideas on how to attack this goal. You can find out much more about this 3-pronged structure in quick tip number 71. So for my improv prong, here's a few ideas. Improv daily, going from a flat 3 diminished chord to a 2 minor chord. Set up a loop slowly and just improv. Just try to make up melodies. You can start this from day 1. Another idea for the improv prong: pick specific tunes that have a significant 2 minor chord in them. You can stretch out your improv practice to these exact tunes, for example, imposing a flat 3 diminished chord to precede the 2 minor chord. Remember, we went into great depth on quick tip 116 on how you could do that in a musical way. So some of the tunes I'm thinking of are Dixie Hoedown by Jesse McReynolds, has a significant 2 chord in it. Whiskey Before Breakfast has a significant 2 chord. John Hartford's Gentle on My Mind has a significant 2 chord. So part of the improvisation practice could be taking fragments of that and putting it in. Now let's move on to the structure prong of the routine. We're just brainstorming ideas here that we can pick and choose from over the course of the next 4 months. Do the thorough arpeggio exercise in one position that I outlined in quick tip number 70. That's going to highlight the most obvious notes to imply the chord changes. Do the same arpeggio exercise in all positions. Practice voice leading arpeggios like I outlined in quick tip number 74 in one position. Outline arpeggios in all positions. Practice appropriate chord scales to imply the flat 3 diminished chord, like a whole half diminished scale, which we illustrated in great depth on quick tip 114. And on a 2 minor chord, you might want to be proficient in a Dorian scale. So for example, if it's a D minor chord, learn how to play D Dorian in all 5 positions. I go into great depth on how to come up with these chord scales in quick tip number 75, quick tip 109, so you can check those out to give you some ideas of how to get these notes in the first place. You can practice arpeggios with chord tones to give you a more varied way to approach these obvious notes to imply the chord changes. I detail that in quick tip 98. You could sing the chord tones to hear in your ear what you're trying to do in this big broad goal. So you could check out quick tip 107, 108, and 110 to give you a clear and concise method on how to do this. You can use melodic motifs from a given piece to generate scale exercises in the given chord scale to get familiar with both territories, the flat 3 diminished and the 2 minor. And this might give you a more melodic way to navigate the chord changes. I detail that approach in quick tip 100. Now let's move on to the composition prong. When we're doing composition, we might be the composers, or maybe we're studying other composers or improvisers. So one task could be transcribe other great artists who have navigated this territory, going from a flat 3 diminished to a 2 minor chord. Another idea: write examples that fulfill the structural criteria. So for example, if you're doing voice leading arpeggios, compose an exact way of voice leading the arpeggios that you really like and sounds good to you. Move those examples to all keys in all positions to maximize the fingering options and the versatility of the things that you like to hear. Sing the examples that you've composed while playing the chord changes. Explore other styles that use either of the chord scales present and see if the shapes or patterns can be transposed to our aim. For example, Stravinsky uses a whole half octatonic scale, which could be used on a diminished chord. Is there anything in Petrushka that I could grab to give me interesting material on a flat 3 diminished chord? This could be an interesting composition or composition exploration exercise. After listing all this, I can tape it up to my wall with the start date and the end date, the 4-month goal. No way am I going to get to all this, but in 2-week fragments, I could take one thing from each category and use it as my focus. For the first 2 weeks, improvise flat 3 to 2 minor, isolated. Just do the thorough arpeggio exercise in all positions and find tunes that have a flat 3 diminished chord to a 2 minor. Search out the great artists that have navigated this. The second 2 weeks, stay with the same improv exercise, but move to slowly voice leading the arpeggios. Practice the corresponding scales in different intervals, not just scale steps. Start singing part of Lee Conant's solo on the tune Night and Day, where he navigates this exact chord change in really musical ways. You could practice this, for example, when you're waiting in traffic. Just isolate a 6-second fragment and sing along to it. As you get more comfortable, these things can take different turns. You might go to an improv heavy 2 weeks because you only have an hour a day to practice. Or you might switch exclusively to writing specific lines and learning to play and sing them because you can't find what sounds good spontaneously and need to do a little slower compositional work. Having brainstormed in a non-reactive state, we have so many avenues to explore. When it feels too structured, I can bank one way. When I feel too automatic and stale, I can bank the other. Do all of this stuff slowly. This is an individual study that doesn't presuppose any deadline. This is for you and your growth and understanding of your own way of working. Right now, you're still watching this video, try to think of some really concrete things that you've just never got around to doing. And maybe you could brainstorm some strategies using these 3 prongs. If you want to be in touch about your roadmap, consider becoming a patron on my Patreon page, where we're going to have some interactive study group type things to deal with making your own roadmaps to get better at music. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.